how many billion-dollar industry do you think that it could become?
Good annotation gives you good models, but great annotation keeps you out of code.
The future of the world is something that is being shaped by the annotators of today, right?
Behind every successful AI breakthrough, you have a spreadsheet of carefully annotated edge cases.
What do you think? Will data annotator ever become a genuinely respected profession?
Just crowdsource people, just hire some gig worker and just.
So, hi Neha, welcome to today's podcast, wherein we are going to be just dwelling ourselves into the truth about data, AI, and annotation. So, we have our guest speaker with us, Neha Jain, who is the director of predictive analytics and AI ML at Kibo, and I'm your host Anupam Kharbanda. I'm the co-founder at xTRANSMATRIX. So, Neha, before we begin our conversation today, I spent some time going through your profile before today, and there is a thread running through your entire career, and I don't think that gets talked enough about. When I went through your entire profile, I saw you working with PwC, TransUnion, Civil, BVC Logistics, Kibo. So five different industries, and every single time you walked in and built the data function from the ground up. So I would not say that it's just an analytics career. That's essentially a founding story repeated five times over. So before we even start, I'm genuinely curious. When you walk into the new company, right, week one or maybe the day one, and you look at and then you talk to the team, and when they're calling about their data infrastructure, what do you always find?
Yeah, that's a good observation, Anupam. You are rightly, like you pointed out, I did have done this actually, setting up data functions from ground up, from scratch, at like BBC Logistics. Here also in some capacity at Kibo, and also many other clients that we had when I was part of the consulting firms like ENY as well as PwC. So, like you was mentioned, week one. I always find myself at the intersection of raw data and scalable business value. You always have this that have I invested enough in my data infrastructure that is actually driving my AI, AI business value out of these models that we have deployed. And most of what I've observed is everybody wants to run before they can barely walk. They say that, yeah, we need those shiny predictive AI models, but when we look at their data foundation layer, that is missing. So that is what I have, in my career invested a lot, I would say, in building that solid data foundation, because that is what will actually drive value out of any AI product that you make. Yeah, so that is what I do in week one. Generally, I try to grow those seeds into those boardroom conversations where you are discussing about predictive models. I try to bring them a notch down and tell them that, hey, you need to set the foundation correct. So that is what I always do.
Awesome. I think it's great to hear that, and it's always inspiring to see the kind of experience that you carry in this field. And when I look at myself, that we co-founded xTRANSMATRIX. So we are primarily a AI data operations company. And when I look at you and me, we are essentially on the other side of the table, where Neha, you sit, right? Neha, you build and deploy the models, right? And we build and annotate the data that makes those models possible, right? So I'm sure that this conversation today is going to be a real full stack. So from raw data all the way to the deployed AI, and I think we are going to be, aiming for a great, honest discussion today, right? So at Kibo
Right.
specifically, if I just for focus sake, if I talk about Kibo in the commerce context, when you think about what's genuinely preventing companies from becoming truly data driven, so what are the bottlenecks that never seems to go away?
Honestly, I'll be Anupam here at Kibo. Kibo is, quite mature, I would say, in its data journey. It's
Mhm.
quite there, but I don't know if you know about Kibo. Kibo is actually a UCP, a unified commerce platform that actually helps you build your digital storefront and also helps you with the backend order management, fulfillment, supply chain, your inventory management. So it provides you composable microservices for all of these, small retail operations that you have. And I would be, I would say that Kibo is one of the very, few companies that actually has an agentic AI in place, a chatbot. It's not simply a chatbot. It would actually help you to make those operational decisions. Like you can just go and say that, okay, put all the green jackets at a discount of 10%,
Yeah.
and the agent will actually do that for you.
Mhm.
So it's quite mature in its data journey, what I've seen of Kibo.
Mhm.
But yeah, back at home where I have worked with many Indian organizations in the past, I would say that the biggest bottleneck that I have seen is that data is in silos. The data is kept in different systems. They're not talking to each other,
Mhm.
and they absolutely lack data governance there. Uh, so I've seen clients coming to us and telling that we need to give a personalized recommendation algorithm for our customers. We need to make these kind of shiny, predictive, models.
Mhm.
But when you actually go dive, you dig in, you understand that the data is actually distributed. Their customer data is actually distributed across three different CRM systems. One is even in legacy system, and they are planning to build predictive algorithms. So that is what the bottleneck is, that they don't realize the importance of that foundation layer. And this is the challenge I've seen across Indian companies, back when I was working with EY, PwC, even in civil for that matter, in some capacity. I would say that data is kept in silos, systems not talking to each other, governance layer absolutely lacking. So nobody has taken that time to actually think about it, to actually invest or get some vendors
Right.
to actually knit all these things together and build that foundation there for you to actually build some meaningful AI on top of that. So yes,
So in the teams, we always talk about collaboration. So
yes,
so is the is the key with the data as well. You know, wherein data has to speak and they have to stitch really well. They have to be
absolutely.
well collaborated. Unless and until that happens, they are not going to get the desired outcome. So
Of
very
course.
well said, Neha. I think it was quite insightful. I'm sure that our subscribers are going to be getting a lot of insights with the kind of conversation that we are having today. So when you're building a model, a predictive model end to end, how does the time actually split between getting data ready and doing the actual modeling work? So if you could just give me throw some light onto this aspect, so that it would be really great for our listeners and subscribers to really understand what really happens behind the scenes.
Right. So like we said, Anupam, first and foremost, the business goal, the business value has to be very clear. What are we trying to achieve? And then begins the data prep work, and to see what data is available into what systems. So we have this process of data collection, like data moving from different servers into your cloud engine. Then we have the data cleaning step. Then we have data imputations, wherein you fill in those missing data. Then we do some kind of exploratory analysis to understand which features should be there into a model. We spend a lot of time on feature engineering. And when we do feature engineering, we also make sure that we annotate our data well, to understand, to highlight those edge cases, to understand uh, different use cases from from which angle that we would be viewing our model. So like I said, a lot of time is spent into data preparation.
Right.
Once the data is prepared, we have all the features, uh, whatever is required, and only then we kind of go on to the modeling step. So it's like, you will have to make sure that your training data set that you're preparing is completely representative of the business use case that you're trying to solve, and you have not missed out on any scenario or any feature that could have added value. So a lot of time is spent on thinking and
Yeah,
elaborating on that part.
absolutely, absolutely. If you could just tell me something about a model that failed, not technically, but in production, right? And what was the actual root cause that you found?
So I would say that, see, models usually fail because you do not have a good training data set. So no amount of clever coding can actually make up for or substitute for a bad training data set. So if you remember this example from 2021, where I talk about this a lot, where McDonald's had signed an agreement uh, with IBM, and IBM had built a system for them to take orders. The AI system will take orders in their drive-through stores,
Mhm.
and people were actually posting TikTok videos there how the AI system is just not prepared and it's adding bacon in the ice cream, and I think one of the orders had some 260 chicken nuggets. So so why do you think that happened? The math was not wrong. It is because you did not prepare your AI model to handle the real, complex scenarios. For example, when someone is actually is actually talking to an AI model for an order, you may have a lot of regional accents that the person may be using. There are a lot of background noises. So the AI model did not account for that. You may even change your mind, while ordering. You may just say something and then quickly change your mind and move to a different sentence. So all of these cases were not annotated properly. These edge cases were not labeled and put into the training data set that these scenarios could occur. These kind of use cases could occur. So that is where I think most AI models fail. Uh, where your model suddenly starts hallucinating. For example, in case of Air Canada, if you see the chatbot simply made a new policy that okay, there are bereavement fares. This person was going to some grief, someone died in his family, and the AI chatbot promised him that you would get reimbursement for this bereavement fares. Air Canada was shocked when this person came back and saying that, okay, you give me my refund. Air Canada said, no, you cannot believe a chatbot. They argued that this is a separate legal entity and we are not responsible. But that person challenged Air Canada in the court, and the court ruled in the person's favor. Air Canada had to pay the person damages. So why did that happen? Because your AI model was hallucinating this policy, which was not there at all, because you have not put your guardrails in place. So
Absolutely.
like I always joke, behind every successful AI breakthrough, you have a spreadsheet of carefully annotated, edge cases. So that is what was lacking here. The math algorithm is not wrong. It is your inability to put those guardrails, to annotate those edge cases, to take those real world complexities into consideration. That is what makes the AI projects fail.
So thanks for taking us through that. Do you think what volume or what is the kind of industry that you see that this data, I mean, just your opinion, how many billion-dollar industry do you think that it could become as of now?
I don't put a number, but definitely it's going to be a massive industry, Anupam, as we can see. We have clearly seen the importance of data annotation these days, how important it is to label your data and what value it can drive. So, in times to come, definitely it's going to be a massive, massive industry. But just that, the nature of work is changing these days. Like earlier, you used to just hire some just crowdsource people, just hire some gig worker and just draw some, bounding boxes on all those traffic signals
Yeah.
capture and stuff like that, which I think you just need to know computer vision. That's all right. But if you see, it's moving towards more, like you said, RHLF. You have reinforcement.
Yeah.
I forgot the full form of this reinforcement learning with human feedback. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So you're moving the industry is moving towards that because people have realized that you definitely need expertise. You definitely need SMEs, subject matter experts,
Yeah.
because as the complexity of AI models increase, because these days you are using AI for complex use cases. You are using it for medical diagnosis. You are using it for, let's say, in a legal case. You are using it for financial analysis, right? So I see that that you definitely need SMEs here who would actually be teaching or training or labeling the data set for you. So that is definitely, very, very important these days. As the complexity increases, you need more skilled people in this. So human definitely, like you said, is in the loop. They are here to stay. And this is going to be a big industry in times to come, because I see as the complexity increases, you need more and more these kind of people doing the job for you.
So, Neha, there is a narrative that says large language models are going to replace annotation. What I personally feel is that LLMs have actually increased annotation demand, because now you need humans to validate LLMs, evaluate synthetic data, right, and catch model drift and handle all the edge cases, that the model itself cannot solve. So, what is your take on this? Do you?
You say this, yeah, I've been hearing this a lot. LLM as a judge, right? You say that LLMs would replace humans in the loop, and they would annotate the data for you. I've been at both the ends.
Mhm.
I would say. So there are industries, Anupam, honestly, where the annotation work is very simple. It's very, very simple, and cost of not annotating your data properly does not kill you there, right? Because I mean, let's see in an e-commerce industry. What is the cost of not annotating your data properly? Is like you losing business. You are recommending wrong shoe pair of shoes to your customer.
Correct.
Let's say,
Mm.
right? But in case of, let's say, industries that are highly regulated, for example, in case of medical, medical field, or in case of a legal cases, or in case of a financial landscape where it's highly regulated, the cost of not annotating your data can be very, very high, right? So I would say that LLMs basically are designed to be very, very probabilistic in nature.
Mm.
Whereas when you're annotating data, you are looking for something which is very, very deterministic.
Yeah.
So let's say an LLM today will tell you that, okay, this customer transcript is very, very positive, and this passes off as a positive comment. Whereas next day, the same LLM will tell you that, no, this fails, and this is not the right transcript for a customer service engagement, right? Because it's probabilistic in nature, because there was some sample token variance there, and it gave you a different result next day. So it's very, very probabilistic in nature. So that alone is the reason that why you need human in the loop.
Mhm.
And second, I would say humans have this tacit knowledge, right? Not everything can be written, right? There are some unwritten rules for every game. So, for example, you may know that there is some ruling which is coming in, or there is some launch which is happening, which is not yet documented, and the LM does not know.
Mm.
So you can bring in that tacit knowledge as well when you are, when you're actually teaching or training that AI model. So I would say for simple cases, for very, very simple, let's say sentiment analysis, you have to annotate. You can, yes, please go ahead and use LLM. But wherever you have slightly nuanced data, wherever you have, you know, little context required, or you need that human tacit involvement, I think human is still the ground truth there. You cannot replace that with LLM.
If you could just throw some light on, how does annotation intersect with compliance in your world? Is it becoming a procurement filter, or is it still a checkbox companies ignore until something really wrong that happens with them? So, what is your take on that?
Earlier, yes, earlier data annotation was required because you had to make uh, good predictive models or good AI models. But these days, definitely, especially after this, the European Union AI Act, the GDPR, uh, I think boardroom discussion has now shifted, like how data annotation is so important for from a legal compliance standpoint, right? Because today we have AI algorithms running for very, very sensitive use cases, like you are giving loan to a customer, that is happening through a AI, AI system in place. or even human biometrics, or for example, some kind of like a CIBIL score. You have machines. Sorry, I mean credit scoring, which goes in. So all these kind of you are using AI algorithms to actually give out these sensitive uh, points to your customers. So
Right.
in this case, you cannot like say that the AI annotation will AI annotation basically here serves like an audit trail for you. So if you because the cost of not annotating your data, the I think I've suppose today if a human tells you, a person comes and tells you that he challenges you in the court that you cannot deny me a loan. Why did you deny me a loan? I mean, he could come and challenge you.
Yeah.
So I think the annotation is your audit trail. You can actually, that's your defense against the regulation or against these
Absolutely.
acts, which acts like, okay, this is my audit trail. You have these annotation metadata that will tell you that why did I take this decision. You can say that, okay, this was a sensitive issue, and how these two data annotators actually decided, labeling this case as true and this case as false. This says yes and this says no. So the annotation metadata serves like a legal audit trail there. And like I always say, I think I read this somewhere and I really like this, that good annotation gives you good models, but great annotation keeps you out of court.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if you don't want to get stuck in those legal compliance cases because of these new acts coming in, which takes care of your, these are privacy laws, and these enforce that your data set has to be very, very representative, and there should be no bias inside your model. So in these cases, annotation becomes like a legal kind of defense for your company actually.
Right.
So that is definitely, catching up these days.
No, very rightly said, Neha, and I fully agree with you, whatever you just said. And I also believe in, like, that as the data, the data is also evolving, the annotation
Correct.
industry is also evolving, so is the compliance. So most of the things are evolving every day. So the industry is learning, people are learning, and there are new laws which we might see
Correct.
coming in the times to come. So maybe it's too early to comment on this, or whatever has been set up is something that we are aligning with and trying to see that how we could make ourselves as more compliant towards whatever the regulation which have been set by the respective governments. One more question that is coming to my mind when talking to you, and getting to know about your preferences when you do the business, or when you take a decision between building something internally or bringing in some specialized partner. What is always your preference? Because I'm sure that you would have found yourself, getting into this kind of a decision making, and most of the
Yes.
part in your last 4 5 stints. So what has been your this thing, and if you could just also elaborate a bit on why did you felt that decision was better? Yeah, yeah,
Right. Right. So see, if you are dealing with very, very sensitive data, if you are dealing with companies where data is your core IP, proprietary IP. Like I said, I worked for Sybil TransUnion, right? So if you know Sybil, you Sybil score, so you understand it's a very, very regulated industry. So there, the data cannot leave your uh, data infrastructure. So in those cases, it's fine. You build an internal team and uh, you do all the annotation by yourself. But in majority of the cases, I would say, it makes more sense to outsource this to a vendor, because you get immediate access to their expertise, their tooling. You can scale up and scale down. You have that flexibility. When you start a model, you may need some 500 odd people, and down the line you may feel the need to scale down. You can easily do that with a vendor without nightmare of having to manage a big operational team of annotators, or the whole hiring part, right? So you skip that operational nightmare as well, and it gives you the required flexibility. And even cost wise, I would say, it makes it's more economical, I would say, Anupam. It
Yeah.
looks like that, that on the surface, that yes, we will do everything internally, and we will save cost. And
Right.
but I've seen this, at when the rubber hits the road, when you're actually down there, you understand, you do not have the expertise. You are actually burning more. You don't have the right tools, you don't have the right infrastructure, you don't have the right people. You spend so much time. What about the cost you have spent so much time into just acquiring stuff from the market, right? So I would say that it's always better to outsource and give it to that experts who are good at that. That will actually save you cost, time, and money. And yeah, but of course, like I said, there are highly regulated industries. Like I said, I work for Sybil. It was not possible there to outsource this to other vendors in
Absolutely.
that case, because data is your core proprietary IP there. It's sensitive. You cannot outsource that to a vendor. So you do it yourself then, right? But in other cases, you can always outsource.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you. I think it's scenario based. I think it industry agnostic decision that you take, uh, where you can outsource, where you can't. Data privacy and all those
Yes.
factors also comes into play. So very well said. I think I fully agree with you, Neha, on this, and I think I also take my decisions according to the scenarios that where we have to take. And it's always not about the cost optimization. Sometimes it's about the data secrecy, privacy. And
Correct.
this is the last question that I have in the show today, right? I want to end with something that I think about a lot. What do you think? Will data annotator ever become a genuinely respected profession, the way data scientists became one? Because we have seen that data scientists, when somebody tells you, oh, I'm a data scientist, you will like, oh, amazing, data scientist. But right now, if somebody says that I'm a data annotator, it's not the same response that somebody gets at this moment, right? So what would it actually take? How much time do you think, or would it ever take that kind of a, would you ever get that kind of a respect?
Personally, I believe that, every profession, no matter how big or small, everyone deserves that basic respect. But yes, you were saying yes, it's not like one of those fancy titles that you would chase for. But I think the data annotation as an industry is quite evolved now than what it used to be. Uh, if we have AI models, like you said, AI models are evolving. It is solving more and more complex tasks, right? So definitely the people who are teaching this AI models, who are acting like teachers, or let's say like a domain experts to these AI models,
Hmm.
uh, definitely should be a respected, a profession, because uh, hearing a lot about this future of work, wherein we say that the AI is going to replace your jobs, or AI, you have these AI prompt engineers, which is a very fancy thing which is coming up. But I believe that data annotation is also going to change, and it's going to be a very respected profession, because now I see companies, they are hiring PhDs, they are hiring teachers, they are hiring financial analysts as data annotators. So you
Hmm.
no longer call them as gig workers, or call them as crowdsourced people. They are actually respected people with good qualifications, with good skill set that they bring to the table. So I definitely see that we are getting there, and this is going to be one of the respected professions that people would want to go into this field. And because you are actually training and teaching this AI models, which are taking such important decisions for us, right? So why not? I mean, I feel that this is going to be a sought after profession, and it should be. That's what I feel. Yes.
Thanks for that, Neha. I think it's
Yes.
really delightful to hear that, and I'm sure that our subscribers who are listening to this conversation, and most of them, they are planning or they are already, jumped into this profession, and I'm sure that this is going to be a real inspiring words for them. I truly believe in, whatever you just said. Yes, absolutely, because they are going to be shaping the world. the future of the world is something that is being shaped by the annotators of today, right? So in my opinion, it's the most respectable one, yes, but sometimes it's about the tag or how something is coined, like data scientist.
Yeah, I would just like to add here, Anupam, that I would say, even here, I'd seen in one of my companies in India, there
Mhm.
was this e-commerce company, and so they were hiring, they wanted data annotators to label their clothing.
Okay.
It's a very very big brand here in India.
Mhm.
It's a big conglomerate. I don't know if you have already guessed it, but
Mhm.
they were kind of trying to annotate their data and bring some context into their clothing brand, wherein they wanted to label, like, if this is a jeans, will it pair well with a high waist coat, or let's say
Right.
boots. So they were trying to bring that context there. So for these kind of annotation, you have to hire fashion stylists. You need to and hire people who know fashion, or
Absolutely.
and that is a very very respected profession. You have to pay them well, first of all, when you hire uh, someone like this, right? And they were actually called data annotators. They are data annotators who are helping us contextualize that data. So I feel that we had a lot of respect for these people, because they brought in so much knowledge to our data. They brought in so much context to the data. So I definitely feel that this data annotation is going to be a big thing in future. It is already big, and I feel that this is going to be a respected profession, and I think it already is actually.
And I think the kind of conversation that we had today, this is something that this is more than what I was hoping for, right? The kind of insights, your journey in the 15 years, 5 industries, and the kind of models that you've worked on, and seeing it from the scratch, building it, from scratch to something which is really creating a lot of difference. Um, so I think this was very insightful and very motivating to hear you, Neha, today. And thanks
Thank
again
you.
for your time, and for sharing all that knowledge that you gained over these years. And we really appreciate, Neha. And it was lovely talking to you. And I wish you all the very best in whatever you do. And let's together see how this world is shaping up in
Right.
the AI. And yeah, hope to see you again. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks for your time. It was lovely talking.
Thanks, Anupam. Thank you, Anupam. Thank you having here. It was great to hear things from your perspective as well. That definitely has added to my knowledge base. So thank you so much for having me here.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.